Welcome to ChristiTutionalist Politics Podcast, aka CTP, in association with thelibertybeacon.com. And I am your host, Joseph M. Leonard, and that's Lenard. CTP is your no muss, no fuss, just me, you, and occasional guest type podcast. I really appreciate you tuning in. As Graham Norton would say, let's get on with the show.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the show. I want to tell you up front that I am actually recording this show very early. It's going to be several weeks out, but it's several weeks out before it airs and the associated TLB piece will be dropped. I've not even begun writing that yet, but something just happened. Today is Saturday, May the 11th, for those looking at J. Leonard Detroit, BitChute, Brighteon, Rumble, YouTube, behind the scenes. You see me looking down at the calendar to get it right. Saturday, May the 11th, and I just got off the phone a few minutes ago with Phil Stargell, Black conservative talk show host, and Bruce Fleury, who is the author of The Negro Project, the definitive book on Margaret Sanger, eugenics, and the plan to engage in Black genocide. At any rate, I spoke with them as they were waiting for their guest, Michael Warren, Judge Michael Warren, whom I supported for Michigan Supreme Court, as did Bruce and Phil, to talk about other things. But after that, the reason I'm mentioning this is because my friend who used to be on the show more, Ron Edwards, who does host his own nationally syndicated show. More importantly, Ron Edwards has what's known as the Edwards Notebook. And they played the one today, May 11th, about entrepreneurship. I forget the other term he used, about motivations of why to engage in starting one's own businesses. And in such, he said the white community, I think it was, circulation of money generally goes around the white community 9 times before it exits that and gets that money in the hands of another community. He quoted a statistic about the Asian community and the Latino community, and then said, but the Black community, it only takes like 30 minutes before the money circulates out to another community. Now, I don't know, he didn't say where those statistics came from. I don't know about the validity of that statistic. The 30 minutes may have been a bit of an exaggeration to make a point, and it's an important and valid point. I know Ron Edwards, Black American, great patriot, love him, great guy. Others listening to that might fully distort and say, he's a racist, right? Black, only about Black, Blacks helping Blacks, all about them, only about them. That is the definition of racism, when you're all consumed only about your own race. Racism. Well, that is not his point. One must take into consideration everything else one says or writes and does for the context. You must take that Edwards notebook in context with the other Edwards notebook. And I have no problem with what he said. It's not about racism. He's not a racist. He's making a valid point about any particular people's engagement and involvement and attempts at entrepreneurship to better not only themselves, their own race, but everyone. A raising tide lifts all boats, as the saying goes. And that is his point here. It's incidental, almost coincidental, and a byproduct. And I jokingly engaging in wordplay here, BUY product as opposed to BY product, both a byproduct and a byproduct. That dollar would circulate more within the Black community if those within that Black community indeed bothered to engage in entrepreneurship and formed their own small businesses, owned, operated businesses in their community. All right, let's define community. Generally, it's human nature. It isn't racism in general. Usually, certainly, sometimes it is. There are racists of all skin tones that are all about their race, only their race, to the exclusion of other races. That can be a Black racist too. That's the definition of racism. So spare me this only white people can somehow be racist. But that's a bit of an aside, a different rabbit hole, but was necessary to say. A community, human nature, I'm sorry, I got to complete that thought. Human nature to generally associate with like-minded people. And like-minded people are usually within the same culture. So it's not unusual. It's not improper. It's not necessarily, it can be, but not always, racist for Asians to live in an Asian community, right? Look at Chinatown in both New York and California. Look at Mexican Town. I'm in the Detroit area. Mexican Town is a thing in the Detroit total city limits is the words I'm looking for here. So it's normal that usually you're born into a community by people of that community, and a lot of times you stay and help build that community. It's not overtly a racist, conscious decision. So a community could be a half a mile square radius within, like, the city of Detroit, multiple mile square radiuses as Mexican Town is. And back to Ron Edwards' point, again, just using Blacks as an example, it's not all about Blacks, only about Blacks. And indeed, it would coincidentally, and as a byproduct, get that statistic he talked about up, not a purposeful, willful, racist intent to only do business with other Blacks. But of course, most communities have businesses owned and operated by people from that community. For whatever reason, Blacks don't have that as much as the other races or classes of people. It's not racist for Ron Edwards to point that out. It's not racist in his intent to want to improve that situation. It's about all people, because again, eventually, with all the statistics he gave, the money eventually circulates out of that community to another community. So helping yourselves within your own community is part of eventually that rising tide that lifts all boats. That's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's not a purposeful, willful, and malice aforethought of racist intent that he talks about this. So thank you, Ron Edwards, for that great Edwards Notebook commentary, as well as all your other Edwards Notebook commentary. And I don't know the website off the top of my head. I will, of course, look it up and put it in the show notes, the edwardsnotebook.com or whatever his site actually is, so you can look at it and hear other of his great patriot, pro-America, pro-business, pro-free markets, pro-everybody doing well, not just his community type fare that he has there. So I hastily, indeed, after the Abolitionist Roundtable, which was the show, again, Phil Stargell, Black conservative, Bruce Fleury, author of the Negro Project, host, and they play the Edwards Notebook, usually a new one every week. Every Saturday, that show airs 9 a.m. Eastern Time to 10 a.m. Eastern Time. You can find that show on whamradio.com, Saturdays 9 to 10 Eastern, with the Listen Live link. I often call into that show, so I absolutely listened. And when I heard Ron Edwards talk about this, I felt motivated to talk about it. So yeah, I hastily now at 10:10 a.m. on Saturday, May the 11th, doing this recording for ChristiTutionalist Politics, because in part inspired by what Ron Edwards, I can't talk again, Ron Edwards, and I'm proud and happy to call that patriot a friend of mine, Edwards Notebook, inspired by it, as well as, again, the need in my mind to clarify and explain the overall context, because some absolutely, positively, the left will attempt to take his words, distort them, and make them out of context to make it like he's some Black Panther or something like that. Like what's his name? Farrakhan, right? Like a black supremacist and always and only about black this, black that, black the other thing, the black community. He wants his own Black America. Ron Edwards is not like that. Most people of any race is not like that, not racist. But again, indeed, there are racists. That's not to deny there aren't. There are racists in any and every race, class, group. Racists, classists, whateverists. So, thank you for tuning in. This is going to be a brief episode. I felt it important to discuss that, provide the full context, and indeed reach out to all if and when you get the opportunity to become an entrepreneur and potentially start your own business. It's great, and I hope you can. I hope you will. I hope you're able to then make a living at it. Not all businesses succeed. Some people indeed scrape by and actually earn less of a living than they would if they were working for someone else. A giant conglomerate corporation, but they like that freedom, personal freedom and sense of power. I don't mean in a tyrannical sense, for themselves, a little bit of control within their own lives rather than that 9 to 5 at the corporation. But again, most small businesses, the misconception is, oh, you own the business and you just rake in the cash. No, 99% of the time, the business owner has to put in far more hours than any employee they have in order to assure the business runs well and right, and they can indeed make money. It often is more work and more stress than the traditional 9 to 5 working for somebody else. Again, I kind of rambled and went down another rabbit hole there, but I think it was necessary. Thank you all for tuning in. Take care. God bless. Until next time, see you later. Segment 2, there will be a segment 3. I will be reprising discussion with Mary Vaughn. We haven't talked about it in a while. Well, I've mentioned in many shows the need for you to be a GOP delegate if we are to roar, ROAR, hashtag ROAR, restore our American Republic, not the Katy Perry roar fanboy type thing. Mary Vaughn segment from back last year will be added in as segment 3 of the show to talk about the importance of being a delegate. But segment 2, lame pun time. You know me. I cannot resist. Again, Savaged and Filtered. I'm Jokester Joe, co-host over there. Last week, or was it the week before? I forget now, but one of the recent shows I mentioned, Buzzsprout is added at my show is housed at Buzzsprout. Buzzsprout has added a fan mail, I'm using air quotes, feature, which means you should see anywhere you visit this podcast, not just at Buzzsprout, but Spotify or our number 2 place, iHeartRadio, that gets the most listens, or third in our top 3 of places, Player FM. But yes, to all those other places, we're carried on like 20 platforms now, including Audio Mac, just recently added. But at the top of every show notes, you should see a send us a text message link that you can then reach out to the podcast. And I joked, since they call it fan mail, and I sent them the joke and they appreciated it. Hey, for hot climates, what about AC mail? All right. Now, playing further on the fan mail joke and the old adage, the psychological question, if you were a tree, what kind of tree would you be? And of course, Back to the Future lame joke, make like a tree and leave. No, please don't leave. Please stay for segment 3. But playing on the fan joke, if you were a fan, what kind of fan would you be? Would you be a static directional fan or an oscillating fan? Would you be a ceiling fan? Would you be, I thought of more things to add in here before I hit record. An oscillating fan, a static directional fan, a ceiling fan. Oh, a personal, like one person fan or a whole room fan, or indeed a fan on the AC unit to cool a whole building. If you were a fan, what kind of fan would you be? So if you want to engage in silliness like I do at times, because the show is otherwise so serious, That's why I'm putting this in. Feel free to send us a text message what kind of fan you would be, or indeed listener feedback on the serious subject matter we delve into. Thank you. All take care.
I'm joined now with Mary Vaughn of the Taylor Republican Club in Southeast Michigan. We're going to have just a short conversation about the club and being a delegate, things like that. Rather than my going into your background, why don't you give us a brief background, including about your church over in Windsor, Ontario, Canada, for anyone that might be tuning in Ontario, Canada. Give us a brief bit about your background outside of becoming Taylor Republican Club president.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Ed Bondarenka, and I host Your American Heritage on Saturdays at 2 in the afternoon on this station. Your American Heritage is a show about the struggle we find ourselves in and how to react to it in the light of our biblical and American heritage. Listen to it while you're working around the house, the garage, cleaning the guns, walking the dog, driving, or just lazing around. Join me at 2 o'clock Saturdays here on Wham Radio, 1600 AM, 92.7 FM.
God bless America.
I'm a precinct delegate, first of all, and I enjoy doing precinct delegate work. And I am also a church member of the Remington Park Tabernacle in Windsor, Ontario. The actual address is 604 Charles Street, and it's near the Devonshire Mall. And I conduct Bible lessons there each week on Sunday morning at 10:30. And we have the Taylor Republican Club, which we're very pleased with here in Taylor, Michigan. And it is for all communities in the Downriver area. It is not just for Taylor. We have all of the communities represented in our membership. And we're very pleased that each month that I have been able since 1994 to be able to get a speaker each month for our meetings. This is very, very special to all of our membership because we get ideas from so many different candidates and other groups of people, such as human trafficking. And that's a going thing at this time because of the Sound of Freedom movie. And if you haven't seen it, it's a good one to see, but prepare yourself with some Kleenexes. You will need them.
Yeah, I'm going to be talking about Sound of Freedom in not the episode that you're going to be on, but the weekend after that. I'm planning that. I lost my note. There it is. Saturday, July the 22nd, I'm expecting you will be on Season 1, Episode 5. Season 1, Episode 6 will be a follow-up movies and politics podcast, and I will be mentioning Sound of Freedom in that and in my article that goes with it. But before we go further, so I don't forget, we're going to mention your website, https://tinyurl.com/TRCMI, which is obviously short for Taylor Republican Club, Michigan. tinyurl.com/TRCMI. And you mentioned you're a delegate, which is important. I wanted to discuss that with you. And before I say that, though, the Taylor Republican Club is not an establishment Republican club. It is for mostly conservative. It's open to anyone, as you said, but it has mostly been a conservatives club, or as I've come to start to call myself, and obviously you are one too, a ChristiTutionalist, short for Christian Constitutionalist. So that is the main focus of the club. We call out liberals, whether they be in the Democrat Party or the Republican Party. We don't play partisan politics. We are
No.
about principles, not personalities, right? And getting the Republican Party back to the platform. And you mentioned you're a delegate. I wanted you to go ahead and say the importance of being a delegate, because it doesn't do any good to scream at the cheerleaders, the coaches, the players, the water boy. You got to suit up and get on the field to affect the game, right? And that's being a delegate.
Being a delegate involves your activity in the community. You must, from time to time, deliver literature for different candidates. The other reason for being a delegate is so that you can persuade people to get to the polls and vote. The other reason for that is also, from time to time, candidates will need you to go door to door for them and get people's ideas as to why they are not voting or why they would like something else to happen. And you give them the information about the candidates that you know about and the reason that they're running on the Republican ticket.
Right. Well, it's important. Everybody's level of involvement will, of course, be different. I'm older now. I have a heart valve issue, so I can't do the door-to-door thing. It's one of the reasons why I wrote my book, Terror Strikes Coming Soon to a City Near You, and one of the reasons why I'm doing this podcast, to reach more people and outside of Michigan, even outside of the United States, globally, to reach everyone with a ChristiTutionalist message about freedoms and our rights. And as Franklin said, a republic if you can keep it, which means you have to sow, right? You reap what you sow. If you don't sow anything, somebody else can sow rotten fruit that we're stuck dealing with, right?
Yes.
So another thing about being a delegate, then it is easier. Republican committee meetings are generally open under the Opens Meetings Act. You can go, but as a delegate, you can go to the county convention and get yourself on a committee. And being on a committee, you then help recruit candidates. So if you're upset with the quality of candidates we have in the spring to vote for in the primary, guess what? Get off your butt, become a delegate. You then help get better candidates so that we have a better candidate in the spring, which means we have a better candidate in the fall to vote for, rather than, as some people, I get tired of hearing people say, oh, I held my nose and voted for the Republican. Well, even a rhino, I'm going to use that term as much as it upsets some people, but even a Mitt Romney, as I call him, or a Lisa Murkowski, all right, as bad as they are still better than the best Democrat, like Joe Manchin, who has got a lot of people bamboozled. You look at Joe Manchin, he talks a good game, but at the end of the day, he's 99.9% Biden, Pelosi, Schumer vote.
That's correct.
Even a Murkowski is better than a Manchin because it counts for control of the body, right? If we would have got Herschel Walker elected in Georgia this last term, we would have still had a split Senate and power sharing, as opposed to Chuck Schumer having full control of the Senate right now. So please, we got to stop with that. I'm holding my nose. Yeah, if you got to hold your nose in the fall, you've got to vote for the Republicans. As the saying goes, spring is rhino season. Fall is jackass season, right? You vote for the best candidate in the spring in the primary, and then you vote straight GOP in the fall. And yeah, some bad ones get in, but it's still better than Pelosi, better than Schumer, better than AOC, for God's sake. I mean, how have some people not figured this out? But yeah, thank you for mentioning about being a delegate. The other thing is you could go to state convention. And if you've got the time and money, you could potentially become an elector and go to the national convention. Weren't you an elector one time?
Yes, I was. I voted for Donald Trump and Michael Pence. Pence, I meant to say. And I went to Minneapolis. It was a very, very lovely trip, and it was worth every penny that I spent to get there. The thrill of being an elector is unbelievable.
Oh, I
And
can
usually
imagine.
you only get to do that once in a lifetime.
Yeah, yeah. And again, let me make clear though, for people watching, to become a delegate is free. You just have
Right.
to sign an affidavit to get your name in your precinct on the ballot. And most precincts have only one delegate, some none, some two, and usually three or more are allowed. So if you get on the ballot, you vote for yourself, you usually become a delegate, unless if your precinct happens to be crowded with several that already exist. But we've got to fill these delegate slots, and you do not have to plan on spending thousands of dollars going to a national convention. You don't have to go that far. You can stay involved locally, but it's important to be a delegate, because without being a delegate, you've got no vote. You've got no say in the Republican Party. I'm sorry, Republican Party, Democrat Party, Reform Party, Libertarian Party, U.S. taxpayer, they are all under the law a private club. Obviously, the fall elections are open to everybody, but in a primary, the party gets to decide its own rules. And for the only way for you to have a say is to come out of those cheap seats, put on the equipment, which is being a delegate, and getting on the field to have a say to affect the outcome of the game. All right. Well, anyway, thanks for joining me today, Mary. I appreciate that. We went kind of longer than I thought we would even, but I didn't know what rabbit holes we would go down.
And I do want to mention, if I may, that we're having an Allen Park Street Fair, and there will be a booth there, and I'll be working there. And I have spent time labeling constitutional booklets for people, and they are free. And you come to the Allen Park Street Fair, and you'll get at least a constitutional booklet with the independence in it also.
Yeah, and it's a shame that the party doesn't do this, but the Taylor Republican Club at least does this. And I know there are certainly other clubs all across the United States that do these things too, and we've got to get more of them doing that. And one thing you mentioned, we didn't say when the meetings are, and it's except what months for the picnic and for Christmas. What Friday of the month?
We will start our readings in September. The first will be the 8th, and we will have a meeting every month until next April, which will be 2024. Our Christmas dinner will be at the Stitz Post in Dearborn Heights, and it's a lovely place with very good food. And I always use the price around $20 or $22 because everyone in my club and the Downriver area can afford that price.
Right.
And you won't be disappointed in the food.
Right. You're not looking to make money off the Christmas party like a lot of clubs do. And of course, the local congressional district needs to raise funds for candidates. Well, TRC does too, but they use that as a fundraiser, whereas you don't. You use it as a ChristiTutionalist type gathering of like minds. And again, tinyurl.com/TRCMI. And you could also find, using the Wayback Machine, the old 12 CDRC website. It's no longer because of redistricting. There's a new 12th district. But if you go to the old 12 CDRC website using the Internet Archive's Wayback Machine, there's a clubs link which lists a bunch of clubs in Michigan. And if you're not in Michigan, which of course a lot of people watching won't even be in the United States, find a club of any kind, conservative, ChristiTutionalist, whatever, near you. DuckDuckGo, Jibberoo, or FreeSpoke search. Don't use Google. Use DuckDuckGo. Find a good club near you to become a member of. All right. Thanks, Mary. Have a great night. Thank you for having tuned in for ChristiTutionalist Politics Show. If you haven't already, please check out my primary internationally available book, Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you. Available anywhere books are sold. If you have locally run bookstores still near you, they can order it for you, or autographed copies are available online direct from me via terrorstrikes.info/shop. Be sure to check out more about today's discussion at thelibertybeacon.com, where my articles drop every Saturday. And let me remind, over time, the fancy high production items will come. But for now, for starters, it's just you as a very appreciated listener by me. All substance, no fluff. No fancy high production intro or inserts, at least yet, just straight to key discussion points. A show that looks at a variety of topics, mostly politics, through a Christian U.S. constitutionalist lens. So again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Take care. God bless. Like and subscribe to ChristiTutionalist Politics Podcast and share episodes. We need your help to grow.
It is a myth that terrorism stopped during COVID. Unfortunately, mainstream media opted to prioritize pandemic hysteria over promoting all news. Terrorism continues. Simply hoping that it doesn't affect you is not a strategy. The new book, Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you, featured on The Author Show, is now available in paperback from bookstores, online, or as an ebook exclusively through Amazon Kindle. Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you by Joseph M. Leonard. Order today.